It was July 18th. That's right. We had survived for 18 days so far in the apocalypse. And with those 18 days, we built ourselves a wall to protect us from the undead, and have created a relative safe haven from the outside world. But with us being this far in, we were well overdue for a house cleaning and organization. For starters, I wanted to remove all the dead walkers that we had slain all around the property so far. After all, there was a possibility of them reanimating after I learned that on the news, even if you'd killed them, they could come back. So it was time that we piled these guys up and try to burn them. I've of course never done this before, so I didn't exactly know the steps to take for this, but I decided to give it a try. I began with crafting a fire pit, and taking each individual corpse from the front and inside of my house, outside to it, and then I would try and light it. Once lit, in theory with them being on top, they should all burn, and I shouldn't have to worry about any brain munchers coming to pounce upon me while I'm sleeping. There was a lot of back and forth, however, because there were some that were still inside the walls while I was crafting it that I had killed. So, this would take some time. And given that I'm not as strong as Superman yet, I could only carry one at a time. So it was a tedious process bringing these back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But hey, eventually, the yard was looking pretty clear and nice. With the corpses all piled up, I decided to give the light a shot. Sat down to watch and see if it would actually work. And would you look at that? It did. Fire began to burn them slowly, very slowly, but it didn't take long until a majority of them were ash. This would be a newfound effective way of me disposing of the bodies around the property as time went on. With the dispatched walkers cleared from around my property, I decided to get started on another project. I know I had said in a previous entry that the water was going out, and we would need to put down more and more water collectors to collect rainwater that we could turn into drinkable water. Well, it was about time that I crafted up a bigger water barrel, but I also thought we could do some plumbing. Maybe we could get the water barrels plumbed to one of our sinks. In order to do this, however, we would have to craft ourselves some stairs and have them go up to above wherever we were going to get our water from. I decided to choose the kitchen. The theory was that if I had crafted a water barrel above the sink there and plumbed it in, that gravity would do most of the work and filter through the sink, turning it into drinking water. But at this point in time, well, that was only a theory. But we were going to find out. Surprisingly, it didn't take too long for me to actually craft the stairs. Took a number of planks and tree chopping down, but we got it. Once crafted, I could freely walk on the roof, which surprisingly was flat. I wasn't stunted by any of the gutters. Weird. Next part of this would be actually putting the water barrel down. And once I had placed it, it fit well and nice on the roof, above where we were going to get our water from. But we had to fill it up with some tainted water to see if this would work. For that, however, I decided to go ahead and plumb in the sink, which I needed the pipe wrench for, which once again didn't take too long. I'd plumbed sinks in the past, but this one was a breeze. I grabbed the mug of tainted water that I had been collecting from rain, made it back up to the water barrel, and placed the water inside of it just to see if this would actually work, and we could drink the water from the sink without getting sick. Fingers crossed. Walking up to the sink, I noticed it just said it was drinkable. Didn't say anything about it being tainted. And this was the moment of truth. I took a sip and, well, I didn't die. With another project done, I decided to start kind of organizing my house, as everything had just been laying around kind of at this point. I'd collected gas cans and some extra food and drinks that I'd placed on the counter. Which brought me to another idea. Another project we needed to begin working on was farming. If we were going to survive, like actually survive here for a long time, we would need seeds for farming, as well as fertilizer, which I went out to go find immediately. And me being in farmland, I began searching barns and warehouses. I was rather impressed with myself when my intuitions were actually correct, and I ended up finding some fertilizer in a couple of these warehouses I was looting. But surprisingly, it was hard to find packets of seeds that we would need. We had found a couple, but it wasn't anywhere near as much as we would need for ongoing survival. I was surprised how hard it was to find them. After all, we were in farmland, you'd think it'd be a little bit easier. Regardless, I kept searching houses and warehouses. I fought and evaded many undead who were guarding the precious fertilizer and possible seeds. Once again, I was surprised by how many walkers there really were out here just wandering around farmland. But regardless, we kept going. There was a few times I was almost taken out, where my booty was almost munched over some seeds and fertilizer. With this happening a number of times, I decided to head back into safety. Even if safety wasn't easily met, there were still a number of walkers that were just constantly on the prowl and constantly heading in the direction of myself. There wasn't much coverage out here. Once I'd made it back home safe though, I decided to start making furrows, where we could actually craft our crops for whenever the time came, and we could actually get some water in these rain collector barrels. I also decided to space out these furrows a bit, just to keep the crops from getting diseased. Didn't need any mold on my tomatoes. With a few furrows dug, I headed back inside to try my luck with tailoring, as it was a skill that I noticed that I hadn't put anything into, and after inspecting some of my clothes, I could actually patch up, layer it, for more armor. But this would be an ongoing process because, well, I wasn't much of a sewer. Hey, how's it going everybody? Thanks so much for watching up until this point. I appreciate it heavily. If you have made it up until this point and you like what you see, please leave me a like. It helps me out a ton with the algorithm, and it gets this video out to other people who might like this content. Also, if you guys have any tips or tricks or anything like that that I would need to know for this survival, please drop it down in the comments. I read every single one of them, so I would appreciate it a ton. Thank you. I would need to rip clothing to actually make the material for this padding, but it was specific material. It wasn't just ripped sheets, which I'd crafted from ripping regular clothes, which would help in bandaging. I needed leather straps, denim straps, things that were tougher for zombies to chew through, which made sense. But I would need a lot of straps. And what better place to find these straps and ripped clothing other than the walkers that were surrounding my property, which once again had taken over my yard. They were trying to beat down my doors. I began to take them out one by one, trying to be as cautious as I could, as it was early morning. I didn't want to get bit. But once they were all dispatched of, I began to get to work, trying to figure out which clothing actually turned into these straps and strips that I would need. Hope no survivors think I'm an odd person for leaving a bunch of naked zombies all around my property. I am thankful, however, a lot of these zombies love their jeans, because it turned out I didn't end up finding too much leather, but I found a lot of denim strips. And once again, my yard was riddled with the dead, which I'd have to clean up later. Wonderful.